I was just 17 when my life completely fell apart. Betrayed by love, abandoned by my family, and left with a baby to raise alone, but from the dust of my suffering, a miracle appeared. This is my story of survival, hope, and how one act of kindness changed everything. Please, before I proceed, kindly hit the subscribe button, like, and share this video to your loved ones. Thank you so much. So, today's story is one I've carried in my heart for years. I kept postponing it because it's not easy to speak about. But at some point, silence becomes heavier than truth. This is my testimony, the journey that shaped me into who I am today. And I believe it's time I shared it with you. Picture me at 17. A young girl, full of audacious dreams, clutching more textbooks than sleep, convinced the future was waiting with open arms. At that age, life feels like standing on a cliff. You're not afraid of the fall, you're intoxicated by the possibility of flying. That was exactly who I was. And all of that hope, that anticipation, was folded into one brown envelope, the admission letter from the university I had longed for since childhood. I still remember the day it arrived. Not by a proper postman, but by a dispatch rider on an Okada, weaving through the chaos of Lagos traffic. My fingers trembled so violently I thought I might shred the paper before even opening it. My heartbeat thundered like a talking drum. My mother was in the kitchen, pretending to stir her pot of soup, but I caught her sneaking glances through the doorway. My father sat frozen in his chair, the newspaper paused midair, as though the entire household had stopped breathing, waiting. Then I tore it open. My eyes raced across the page until they landed on the word that mattered most, congratulations. The sound that escaped me wasn't even human, it was pure, unfiltered joy. I leapt into my mother's arms, both of us laughing and crying at the same time. Even my stern father, whose face was usually carved in stone, had tears in his eyes. He drew me close and whispered, "Victoria, you are the pride of this family. You are our light." In that instant, I felt radiant. I was to be the first in our lineage to walk the path of higher education. I was going to become an architect. My life seemed like a flawless sketch, bold, certain, unstoppable. Nothing, I believed, could alter the design. Soon, it was time to leave. With my single, "Ghana must go," bag packed, my parents drove me to campus. That journey was a storm of excitement and fear tangled together. I stepped onto university grounds, it felt like stepping into another world. The campus was vast, the lecture halls rose like palaces, and the flood of students was overwhelming, confident, stylish, laughing in tight circles. And there was me, clutching my bag like a shield, my body small, my spirit trembling. For a fleeting second, I wanted to run back to the safety of my father's car. But that hesitation didn't last. I remembered the sacrifices my parents had endured to place me there. I had no right to falter. I threw myself into the mission. I became that student, the one anchored in the front row, devouring every word of the lecturers, scribbling notes with the speed of fire. My nights were spent in the library, the air thick with the smell of old pages, the silence broken only by scratching pens and occasional sighs. I thrived in that stillness, it gave me purpose. My days followed a steady rhythm. Dawn prayers, lectures, endless study sessions, a quick plate of Indomie, more studying, and then sleep. I lived in a world built on ambition and assignments. Boys would whistle or try to distract me along the hostile path, but I brushed it off. My father's words echoed constantly, "Victoria, face your books. That is your only job." And I obeyed, fully, with everything I had. I felt untouchable in that bubble of discipline. Safe, secure, protected. But here's the truth about bubbles. They are dazzling, delicate, and devastatingly easy to break. I remember the exact moment he asked for my name. When I said, Victoria, he repeated it slowly, savoring every syllable like it was the rarest jewel in the world. Victoria, that is a queen's name. It suits you. And now tell me, what does a girl even say to that? I was completely off guard. My heart stumbled. Instead of replying, I fumbled some weak excuse about being late for class. I practically ran away, my chest fluttering like a trapped bird. Forget him, Victoria. He's just a smooth talker. Probably says the same thing to every girl he meets. But Jude was relentless. He had this uncanny way of appearing wherever I went. Midnight study session in the library. There he was, leaning casually against a wall like he'd been waiting all night. Between lectures, he'd fall in step beside me, asking about my day, that focused gaze making me feel like I was the only person in the world. And the way he listened, it was disarming, charming, infuriating, but secretly flattering. I tried to shut it down. Busy, studying, not now. I thought if I made myself cold enough, he'd disappear. But Jude didn't see rejection as a wall, it was a challenge. Then, the gifts began. At first, small things. A bottle of chilled Fanta and a meat pie waiting at my usual seat in the lecture hall, with a sticky note, brain food, J. Strange, right? Somehow, he knew my timetable, my seat, my habits. Sweet, but unsettling. Soon, the gestures grew bolder. One afternoon, a delivery man marched straight into my hostel with an enormous bouquet of roses. My roommates screamed, Victoria, who is this mystery man? He must be rich. And me, frozen, cheeks burning, stomach twisting. Not long after, an expensive textbook, the very one I had once mentioned in passing. That was it. I cornered him near the science faculty, determination blazing. Jude, this has to stop. I can't accept these things. Please. He looked at me with wide, soft eyes, almost wounded. His voice dropped to a tender whisper. What's wrong, Victoria? I'm not asking for anything. I just want to be your friend. I admire how hard you work. Is kindness now a crime? And somehow, I felt guilty. As if I was the cruel one, misjudging an innocent heart. Just friends, he insisted. And like the naive girl I was, I started to wonder, maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe I was overreacting. So I opened the gate. Just a little. I agreed to friendship. And that, though I didn't know it yet, was the beginning of the end. From then on, Jude changed tactics. The flashy displays disappeared. He became constant. He'd text to ask if I'd eaten. Walk me safely back to the hostel after long nights. Ask about my family, my childhood, my dreams of building towers that touched the sky. And he listened, truly listened. For the first time, I actually enjoyed his company. Someone outside the chaos of exams. Someone who could make me laugh. Slowly, gently, he chipped away at the walls I had built. Then came the invitation. It was a Friday evening when he called. Hey Victoria, his voice cheerful, some friends are coming over tomorrow night. Nothing wild. Just food, music, laughter. I'd really love it if you joined us. Every alarm in my head went off. My father's stern voice thundered inside me. Never step into a boy's house. So I refused. I have assignments. I'm busy. Jude lived off campus in one of those sleek, new apartment blocks, the kind with polished tiles that gleamed under the sun and security guards who looked like they were guarding kings. Stepping inside, I felt a strange calm. It looked harmless, exactly as he promised. 2 guys, 1 girl, lounging lazily on a sofa, soft music humming in the background. Nothing wild, nothing suspicious, just normal. But then I noticed his sister, the only reason I had agreed to come, was nowhere in sight. I asked, and Jude just waved his hand casually. "Ah, she got called into work last minute. She's so sad she couldn't meet you." Something inside me whispered caution, but the warmth, the easy mood, it made me push that warning down. Jude was the perfect host. Floating from kitchen to living room, he made me feel like a queen. "What can I get you, Victoria?" he asked from the kitchen. I made fresh pineapple juice. My special recipe. Juice felt safe, harmless. "Juice is fine," I replied. He returned with 2 tall glasses, golden and fizzing with ginger. Clinking his against mine, he smiled that familiar, charming smile. "To new friends." I raised mine weakly and took a sip. Sweet, refreshing, even delightful. And then we talked. He leaned in, asking about my studies, my dreams, my future. He listened as if every word was precious. For a while, I forgot caution. For a while, I almost believed in his charm. Then 20 minutes later, my world shifted. It began as a heavy fog, suffocating, pressing against my head. The room swayed like a boat in rough water. The music grew louder, echoing from every corner. Panic fluttered in my chest as I set the glass down. "Victoria, you okay?" Jude's voice sounded distant, warped. His face flickered in and out like a bad dream. I don't feel well," I muttered. "I think I should go." His hand landed on my arm, too heavy, too firm. "No, relax. Close your eyes for a minute. You'll be fine." I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But my body betrayed me. My strength dissolved into nothing. The last thing I saw was his smile, stripped of warmth, stripped of charm, replaced with something cold, predatory, triumphant. And then, darkness. A darkness so complete it felt like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. When I came to, it was like clawing my way out of a black pit. My skull throbbed. My body felt foreign. Strange sheets. Strange walls. Then memory hit like icy water, the juice. The dizziness. "Jude." Panic slammed into me. I scrambled out of bed, trembling violently, fingers fumbling with my clothes. The door creaked open. Jude walked in, smiling, carrying 2 mugs of steaming coffee. "Hey, you're awake," he said, casual as if nothing had happened. I froze, my voice a dry rasp. What happened? What did you do to me?" He had the audacity to look offended. "Relax, Victoria. You just had too much to drink. I didn't want you going back to the hostel like that. That's all." "I didn't drink," I snapped, fury lending strength to my voice. "I had 1 glass. Your juice. You put something in it. You did this to me." He sighed, as if I were being dramatic. Ran a hand through his hair. "Don't be dramatic. Nothing happened you didn't want. You were having fun." Gaslighting. Denial. Twisting reality so that I questioned my own mind. But I didn't wait. I couldn't. I grabbed my bag, my shoes, and bolted. Out of the room. Out of the apartment. Into the street, barefoot, broken, running for my life. And even as I ran, one terrifying truth burned through my fogged mind. I had walked willingly into the trap. And now, nothing would ever be the same again. I ran all the way back to my hostel, straight into the shower, scrubbing my skin raw, but nothing could wash away the filth. Or the shame. After that day, Jude disappeared. No calls. My number blocked. If I saw him from afar, he turned the other way. His silence was the loudest confession. The next 2 months were survival on autopilot. I buried myself in books, hid from friends, skipped meals. I lived like a shadow. But my body betrayed me. The exhaustion was crushing. The smell of food made me sick. Deep down, I knew. I was late, too late. Hands shaking, I bought a pregnancy test like I was buying contraband. I waited in the cold hostel bathroom, heart pounding through my ribs. 3 endless minutes later, the truth appeared in 2 pink lines. Clear, final, positive. I went numb. Then hope, foolish, desperate hope, crept in. Maybe if Jude knew, he'd take responsibility. Maybe his family would force him. Maybe. I went to his apartment. Knocked once, twice. Nothing. A neighbor, kind but pitying, told me he'd vanished. Packed up in the middle of the night. Gone without a trace. He hadn't just left. He'd planned his escape. He knew this might happen. I stood there, staring at the empty apartment like a grave. My last hope shattered. Still, I sent one message. Jude, I'm pregnant. Please, you have to call me. Delivered. No reply. Just silence. I was alone, carrying the disaster he created. Hiding a pregnancy from a Nigerian mother. Impossible. Their eyes see everything. When I went home for break, I wore the baggiest clothes I owned, but the bump was already there. Morning sickness betrayed me. My mother noticed immediately. The way I pushed food around, ran to the bathroom, carried sadness in my eyes. She stayed silent, watching, waiting. The explosion came one evening. She walked into my room, holding one of my sweaters. Her eyes scanned me, slow, deliberate. My blood froze. Victoria, her voice was low, sharp. Tell me the truth. What is wrong with you? I lied. Nothing, Mama. I'm just tired. School is stressful. She stepped closer. Her eyes dropped to my stomach. Her face crumbled. Stand up. Hands trembling. I obeyed. When the sweater came off, the small curve of my belly was undeniable. Her gasp cut through me like a blade. She whispered, broken, Toria, what have you done? And I shattered. I cried. I confessed. I told her everything. Jude, the drugged drink, how I never wanted it. But her eyes were cold. Distant. As if I wasn't her daughter anymore. That night, she told my father. His footsteps thundered down the hall. He burst into my room like a storm, face twisted with fury I'd never seen before. Is it true? He roared. I nodded, sobbing. Who is he? He bellowed. Give me his name. His name is Jude, I cried. I don't know anything else. He's gone. My father's disgust was louder than his rage. He didn't hear about the drug, didn't care about the violation. All he saw was disgrace. You have brought shame into my house. He thundered. After everything we've done for you. You throw your future away like this. My mother stood in the doorway, arms folded, silent. Her silence was her judgment. Papa, please, I begged. It wasn't my fault. He spat the words back at me. Not your fault. You went to his house. A girl who goes to a boy's house has already chosen her path. Verdict delivered. Guilty. Disgrace. Shame. I looked from his burning eyes to my mother's stone face, and knew I was completely alone. My parents no longer saw a daughter. They saw shame. The house turned into a grave. My mother turned her back if I entered a room. My father's eyes slid past me like I didn't exist. The silence was a punishment. That evening, my father stood at my door. Pack a bag, he said flatly. My chest tightened. Papa, where am I going? I don't know. I don't care. You are no longer our daughter. Not under my roof. I dropped to my knees, clutching his trousers. Please, Papa, no. I have nowhere to go. He peeled my hands off him like they were dirty. My child was the girl who made me proud. I don't know who you are. Behind him, my mother watched. I begged her with my eyes. She turned away. I packed a tiny bag, one change of clothes, my toothbrush, a few crumpled Naira notes. At the door, my father opened it wide to the night. Don't come back. Don't call. If anyone asks, we'll say we don't know you. The lock clicked behind me. That sound broke my life in two. 17. Pregnant. Alone. That night, I found the cheapest, dirtiest guest house. The sheets stank. I sat on the bed all night, holding my stomach and crying. By morning, my money was already running out. School was gone. Home was gone. I was officially homeless. I wandered the streets, through Balogun Market, through Ikeja traffic, an invisible ghost. I slept in an unfinished building, curled in a corner. Hunger hollowed me out. I was weak, dizzy, desperate. I needed work, any work, but shopkeepers glanced at my belly and turned me away. Finally, I stumbled into a roadside buka, wooden benches, steaming pots, customers shouting over plates of stew. The owner, Mama Caro, barked orders with a permanent scowl. Please, Ma, I whispered. I need work. Anything. Wash plates, fetch water, anything. Her eyes scanned me, lingering on my stomach. You are pregnant. Yes, Ma, I said, bracing for rejection. She studied me, saw the desperation in my face. At last she grunted. The money is small. The work is hard. You start before sunrise. You finish when I say. You understand? Yes, Ma. Thank you, Ma. Relief crashed over me. And just like that, my new school was the back of a buka. My lessons. Piles of greasy plates, buckets of water, endless scrubbing. My hands became rough, my body heavy, my future uncertain. But at least I wasn't starving anymore. The labor hit me fast. Middle of the night, pain like fire. Alone, scared, on my mat. I cried out. Thank God, Mama Caro heard me. She bundled me into a small car, rushed me to a small clinic, and paid the deposit from a roll of Naira in her handkerchief. That night, she saved us. Every contraction burned, but all I could think about was him, my baby fighting to live. That thought gave me a strength I never knew I had. I hit rock bottom. I watched my son waste away while begging did almost nothing. People spat words at me. Coins fell like insults. My hands trembled holding whatever little I'd earned. I did everything I could think of. I sold the few things I owned. A bracelet, a couple of textbooks, even the hair I'd kept for good days. I worked double shifts at the buka, washed extra plates, ran errands for anyone who paid. I borrowed from strangers and repaid in small, slow bits. Mama Caro scraped together medicine and extra food when she could. It wasn't enough, but it kept us alive. One night David's fever spiked. He was listless, his breath shallow. I held him and promised I wouldn't let him die. I carried him to the cheapest clinic I could find. The doctor looked at us and frowned. I had no money for tests or treatment. I knelt on the clinic floor and begged with my whole soul. A nurse, God bless her, took my trembling hands and paid enough to buy the first dose of medicine. The medicine helped. The fever went down. Not all at once, but enough for me to breathe. Watching him suckle again felt like a small miracle. But surviving on scraps and favors wasn't a life. I needed a plan that would last. I needed work that would pay, a roof that wouldn't leak, a future for my boy. I had no degree, no family, no safety net. Only a promise and a fierce, furious refusal to let him die hungry. So I made a decision. It was desperate. It was dangerous. It was the only choice left. I walked into the market the next morning with my head high and my heart full of one thing: survival. My legs nearly gave out. I walked over, block still balanced on my head, heart hammering like a drum. The engineer barked, and I obeyed. The man in the white shirt didn't shout. He watched me quietly, then asked one question that cut through everything: "What's his name?" "David," I said, my voice small. He stepped closer. For the first time since I started working, someone looked at us without disgust. He crouched a little to see the baby, touched his tiny hand like he couldn't quite believe a life that fragile was real in that dust and heat. "Why is he tied to your back while you work?" he asked, not unkindly. "Because I have no one to watch him. I have to work," I said. I didn't beg. I only told the truth. He listened. No lecture. No pitying shake of the head. Just cold, practical questions about how much I'd been paid and whether I could handle heavier tasks. The engineer muttered something about safety, but the man in white cut him off. "Bring her a stool and a shade," he said. "And pay her like the men. If she can do the work, she gets the same pay." The engineer blinked. The men on the site looked at each other. I didn't believe it at first. Then the man turned to me and said, "Plain, come with me to the office tomorrow. We'll sort out your payments and get the boy checked properly. Don't miss it." He handed me a small envelope, more than my usual daily pay, and walked away with his entourage. He didn't look back. I stood there, stunned, clutching the envelope. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time: a thread of hope. But hope is fragile. I had been given a brief mercy, not a miracle. Tomorrow would decide if this was just another small kindness, or the beginning of something that could change both our lives. The tears came hot and fast, but they weren't from pain this time. They were tears of disbelief. Tears of hope. Mr. David Adekunle sat back in that leather seat, calm, steady, certain, while my world spun upside down. Nobody had ever looked at me and seen worth. Not my parents, not Jude, not the strangers who spat on me at the bus stop. But this man, this stranger, saw me. And in one afternoon, he was offering me back my life. I could barely breathe. My voice shook as I whispered, why would you do this for me? You don't even know me." He gave a small smile. "Because someone once helped me when I was young, just like you. If he hadn't, I would not be the man I am today. Everyone deserves one hand that pulls them out of the pit. Today, that hand is mine." My body trembled. My mind screamed this was impossible, a dream I would wake from. But my heart believed him. For the first time since I had been thrown out of my father's house, I wasn't just surviving. I was being given a chance to live. He leaned forward, his eyes steady. "Victoria, are you ready to fight for this chance? Because I can open the door, but you must walk through it. No excuses. No looking back." I gripped David tighter on my back. My voice came out firm, stronger than I thought I still had. "Yes, sir. I'm ready. I will not waste this chance." He nodded once, satisfied. "Good. Then your new life starts today." I didn't know it yet, but those words were the line between my old world of shame and hunger, and the beginning of something I never dared to dream of. They weren't just tears of joy, they were tears of resurrection. My life had been buried, but in that moment, God used one man to bring me back. Mr. Adekunle, Matthew, kept every single promise. He gave us a home, put food in our mouths, restored my son's health, and sent me back to school. When I walked onto that campus again, I was no longer the broken girl who had been thrown out. I was a mother with fire in her eyes. Every lecture, every exam, Every project, I gave it everything. I studied as if my son's heartbeat depended on it. In truth, it did. Matthew was more than a helper. He became my mentor, my friend, my steady rock. He never once reminded me of my past. He never made me feel like I was in his debt. He simply believed in me. And belief, when the world has branded you worthless, is the greatest gift of all. 4 years later, I stood at the top of my class, graduating with first-class honors. And in the crowd, I saw the man who had saved us both. That was the moment I knew I was not a victim anymore. I was a victor. And love, it wasn't a whirlwind. It was steady, patient, and real. Slowly, beautifully, it grew between us, rooted in respect, watered by admiration, and built on the unshakable foundation of everything we had survived. The day he asked me to marry him, he said, I didn't fall in love with someone I rescued. I fell in love with the woman who carried blocks for her baby, the student who rose to the top, the mother who loves fiercely and without fear. And I said yes. Of course, I said yes. So that's my story. From rejection to redemption. From shame to strength. From being thrown away to being chosen. It proves one thing. No matter how deep the pit, one act of kindness, one second chance, can turn it all around. This isn't a fairy tale of a prince saving a damsel. I saved myself. What Matthew gave me was the chance to rise. And together, we chose to build, not just skyscrapers, but a life, a love, and a legacy. Victoria's journey reminds us of one simple truth. Life can break you, but it can also remake you. From being thrown away as a failure, she rose to become a victor. From begging in the streets, she stood tall on the graduation stage. And from carrying blocks for survival, she found love and built a family on the strongest foundation, faith, resilience, and kindness. Her story proves that one act of compassion can change everything. So, if you ever feel like giving up, remember Victoria. Remember that no matter how heavy your burden is, your tomorrow can still be brighter than your yesterday. Thank you for watching. Please, if this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire hope.